Hello everyone, it's Bobby from Coding here, and this is the 13th video in building and launching a real Django website series. Now the link to the last video is just up here, but if you've been following along you'll know that we've built a website. It's in our development on our machine on a development server, and it's working beautifully. We've also configured a new server or droplet on DigitalOcean, so we're ready now to move all of our bits and pieces from our local machine onto a production server. Now I have already done a video about how to download MobileXterm on your machine. Now you will need MobileXterm or another piece of software that allows you to SSH to a server. MobileXterm is great. So watch the video, link to it is just up here. Get it all installed on your machine, set up a server on DigitalOcean, that was in the last video, and come back to this video once you've got to that point, because you're going to need all of that to move forward. So if you look at my screen, you'll see that I've got a web page open. Now the link to this page is in the description. Now this is on DigitalOcean on their community tutorials, and you'll see that this is called How to Set Up a Django and Postgres, Nginx and Gunicorn on Ubuntu. That is exactly the stack that we're using on this project. So I've used these instructions a few times now and they work perfectly. So let's just scroll down, and what I don't want to do is keep flicking backwards and forwards from MobileXterm to this. So what we're going to do is got an introduction and it's got some prerequisites. That's all about setting up a server. Now my video will go through that anyway. Then you've got installing packages. So and we're installing them from the Ubuntu repositories. So we use these commands here, so sudo apt update install, and then we've got all of these packages here. So I'll be using those commands when I go through that shortly. We are using Python 3. If you're using an older version, then you'll have the instructions are on this web page. Then you've got to create a database. So we're creating a Postgres database. Now at this point we'll create the two databases that were configured in development on this single server, but at a later point we might pull them apart and put one on another and one on this one, doing it all on one. So this is literally going to be a carbon copy of what we've got on our development server currently. So sudo apt Postgres PSQL, that allows you to set up using raw SQL a database, a user. Now I've already got a user set up on my droplet already, so these commands here I won't need to do, but when we set up a new one I will have to. So create a user, then you have to configure that user with different time zones and encoding UTF-8 and things like that. Then you grant permissions to that user to the project. Privileges to the user to the database that we've just set up. Then you need to create a virtual environment, and then you go through setting up the directories, dragging across all of the files from the directory we've got on our machine, and then we need to over and above what's in our requirements. Now you can pip install Gunicorn and psychopg2 binary before this stage, but we don't need it in development, so I don't generally do that until it's in a production environment. So, but what we will need to remember to do is to remove psychopg2 from our requirements. Come to think of it, I don't even think we added it to our requirements in the tutorial, but even so, it will be in our requirements. We'll need to remove that and replace it with a binary version, else this just doesn't work. Believe me, it just doesn't work. So yeah, we'll get to that stage. Then what are we doing? We're creating and configuring a new Django project. We'll drag everything across. Then we need to do a few changes to the actual settings.py file, which I'll show you what to do on there. We change the static root, and we remove some of the media routes and media URL information because the way we're going to configure this in the project. But again, I'll walk you through that. Then what are we doing? Running a server, and yeah, so I won't keep flicking backwards and forwards between the MobileXterm screen and this website, but I am quite literally going through these steps one step at a time until we get to the point where it's all up and running. So we'll start at the top. I might flick them back and forth once or twice, but I wanted to go through that web page first before jumping in MobileXterm, because it can be a little bit too much when you keep, going from one page to the next, especially if you're trying to follow along. So let's open up my MobileXterm. There will be a lot of bits and pieces being blurred out, such as the IP addresses and things like that, but you should get the gist of things in this video. So I'm I've SSH to the server that we just set up, so the droplet on DigitalOcean, the London one. No, I'm SSH to a different one. One second, let's close this down. Yes, let's add this to the, so we've got the root. Yeah. Now I'm SSHing into the London data center, which is I've got the 2 on my DigitalOcean. If you remember in the last video, I'm now SSH'd into the London data center. The other one is Amsterdam, and we'll be using that when we're breaking the project down into modules. So what we do need to do right from the get-go is we need to set up the firewall. Now this is probably already configured on this server. I'm just going to go through those steps anyway. This may or may not be in the instructions on DigitalOcean, but I set the firewall up first, and then I'll be looking over this way over to my other screen, because I've got like my own walkthrough step by step on the other screen. Just make sure that you'll know by now that my typing is terrible, so I'm going to be copying and pasting a lot of my commands across, because it will save a lot of messing about. So we'll copy the commands across. Okay, we want to allow open SSH. It's already in there, but I'm going to show the commands anyway. And sudo ufw enable, and we want to put yes. Okay, that's just setting up a firewall for the project. And then we want a sudo apt update. Now I believe this is in the tutorial online, so they advise that you always update sudo before you crack on with the next steps. This server already has all of the packages, but I'll show you, it is the same command as what's online. And then, so yeah, it says all of the, so PostgreSQL is already the newest version, so it just goes through all that command and it just brings in all of the packages from Ubuntu repository. And then we need to set up our databases. Now if you remember, we've got 2. So using that command sudo u postgres psql, it allows you to then set up a database using raw SQL. So we'll go create database, and then we'll call this one. Let's open up our project again and find out what we were. Oh, it's opened up in requirements.txt. You can see actually that there isn't PostgreSQL in there. Sorry, psychopg2. And there's also no decouple, so we'll add that to that now. So I can open up a command prompt. So it's work on did demo. We want to pip freeze requirements.txt, and now if we just go back in there, there we go. Because in the last video, or maybe the one before that, we added Django decouple, which allows us to take sensitive information out of our settings file and decouple it from the project. And also we added psychopg2, which allows us to work with PostgreSQL in a Django project. So they're the 2, that now requirements is up to date. That's where we need it to be at this present moment in time. If we go into settings.py, scroll down to our database section, and we've got the name of the database here. We'll keep those names in the production server. So we want did demo and did demo user. Back to mobile extern, we want did demo, and in this server, which one am I in? So I'm in 13868. Yeah, in this one I've already set myself up, Bobby Stearman, as a user on this database, and I've given myself all of the privileges, so I don't need to do that again. So I will jump through some of the commands, and I will give myself privileges to this new database. Grant all on database. Sorry, you probably noticed by now, if you're following on these videos, my new office, or my new studio, is right next to a main road, and you get a lot of background road noise. I do apologise. Did demo to There's Bobby Stearman. Great, and then we want to do the create database command again, and this one is database user. So did demo underscore user, and then we want to give the privileges to Bobby Stearman again. Brilliant. And we can then escape out of that. And that's how you do that. Right, so we've now set up two databases on our new droplet, which is great. Now what we want to do is pip install or upgrade pip. Already satisfied, that's great. And we'll do the virtual environment command as well, although that should already be satisfied as well. Like I said, I configured this database, this server in the previous tutorial. And now what we want to do, we're currently in this directory here, which is the root directory. We now need to cd into the directory that you set up, or that you would have set up if you followed along on my tutorial. So you need to cd back a directory, then cd into home, then into the directory, whatever the name is that you set up. Mine is Bobby. And then we need to make a directory for the project we're now going to bring into the server. So we cd cd home, and then it's Bobby. And then it's make dir, and this is going to be called did demo dir. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So we use this here, home, Bobby. And I've just now made another directory. You can see I've got did coding in here as well. So I'm using this same server for my own website, the actual production did coding website. This is just for demonstration purposes, right? So I've got did demo dir. So that's what we've got. It should be an empty directory, which it is. Okay, let's just make sure. So now what we need to do, we need to cd into did demo dir, and we want to set up a new virtual environment. On our machine, we use a command make virtual env, but using these libraries on the server, we use a different command, and it's actually virtually env. You just drop the mk. So it's virtual env did demo, and in this one we'll call it env. So did demo env. Okay, that seemed to work. And how you activate a virtual environment in the production environment here is you use a command called source. When you're in the right directory, use source, then it's did demo env. Did I do underscore? I don't think I did. No, I didn't. There we go. env / use bin and activate. There we go. If you can see here right at the bottom, it says did demo env in brackets. So it's carbon copy of where, if you're using a command prompt on a Windows machine, when you fire up a virtual environment, it then shows you that it's working with the brackets at the start. So we've got a working virtual environment now, which is great. So we now need to pip install Django, and we need to pip install psychopg binary. And we need these two at this stage so that we can start up a project, a Django project. So make sure you pip install the correct Django package. So we're using, I believe, Django 3.2. Let's have a look. 3.2. So that's what we need to use. So it's pip install Django equals 3.2, and then we psy copg 2, right, 2, and this is the binary version. Let that do its thing. Brilliant. Now what we need to do is we need to now create the project. So start a project. So we want to cd back. So we come out of the project. We're now in home Bobby. So we're now in the equivalent of being, we now are in this directory right here. So we've cd'd, we've got home Bobby. So now we want to use the command Django admin.py. So it's slightly different to when you're in development. Start project, and this will be did demo. And we want to put it in dir. That's what we called it, did demo dir. So that will start, it will ask Django 3.2 to start a new project called did demo, and it will put that project in the directory called did demo dir. That's what we're doing there. It looks like it did work, but moving forward, you probably don't need to put the py, so it'll just be Django admin, which is what you do in development, right? So, okay, you can see here in our directory did demo dir, we've now got did demo, which is the main directory, which is what you get when you do this in the development environment. But we've then also got the virtual environment. So normally what happens is on your local machine, your virtual environment is in a predefined directory somewhere in your C drive or somewhere like that that you set up when you install Python. And so, but when you're in a production environment, that virtual environment sits within the project itself on your server. So this is starting to look a little bit like our directory setup in the Sublime Text. So we've got the did demo, that's on the server now called did demo dir. Then we've got the did demo directory, that's the main directory, and it gives you manage.py. Okay, so it's starting to look like how we've got it on our machine. So if I can now go back into Mobile Xterm, the beauty of Mobile Xterm is that you've got this panel here. So it's the SFTP panel, which allows us to drag and drop files directly into the server. That's what I love about it. So go back in the did demo, and what you now need to do is you need to bring across all of the files that we've got in the directory on our local machine. So requirements, settings, we want templates, we want static. We don't need media CDN because they're the files that we've saved into the project when we're in a development environment. We just don't need those. We want main, and we won't do not drag across the main did demo directory because that will supersede everything that's in this one. So it will, all of the files, so the URLs, the settings, it will just copy and save straight over them. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to pick up the new secret information out of the settings, so the secret key out of the settings.py file, and then we put that into our settings ini file. So that way it's a unique secret key that's being used in a production environment. So I'll go into it now. So I will blur out these keys, or the key. Oh, it's gone across onto my other screen. 1 second. Okay, so we've got the secret key here. What I need to do, I need to copy that. Copy that. I'm having fun here. Copy, and then in Mobile Xterm, I now want to open up the settings ini file that we just dragged across. This will be blurred out, and I want to save that in there. Just make sure again that if there's any percentage symbols in the secret key that you actually duplicate, so you put 2 instead of 1. That's the syntax of Django decouple. So let's save that file, settings ini, and there we go. And now in the settings.py file, now what we can do is we can open up the whole settings.py file up in we can drag it straight across now. There's not going to be any harm in doing that. So we can close that down, and now we can drag across our entire did demo project. So the only reason I do that is that I want a unique secret key in my production environment, and what I'm working on in development. It's the right thing to do, really. There's nothing else in the did demo directory on my local machine that I need to worry about. I can just drag that straight across. So the secret key is safe in the settings.ini file. You can now drag it across, not a problem at all. And there we have it. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to jump straight into the settings.ini file, sorry, the settings.py file in the project here. And you'll see now that we're importing OS, and with the secret key is now changed to the config secret key. So again, it's picking up that secret key, the new secret key from the ini file. So hopefully you can understand what I've done there. Now what we need to do is we need to, in the allowed hosts, we need to add 2 allowed hosts. And firstly, what we want is www.diddemo.com. Oh. And what we also want is just did demo without the subdomain, so diddemo.com. They're the 2 allowed hosts that we want in here. We then want to scroll down to the database variable, and we need to change some bits in this. So rather than the engine being django.db.backends.postgresql, we now need to put in there django.db.backends.postgresql_psychopg2. Okay, do that to both of the databases. Then the user, in this case it's Bobby Stearman. That's the user that we set up when we were setting up the databases on MobaXterm. And we want to remove the port. So we don't need port in there. So I think that's it. So the name, engine, user, password is correct. Port is localhost. Yeah, that's our database configuration done. So I say yes to that. Sorry, I want to go back into that. I wasn't quite finished. We want to scroll down database routers. We do need those because we are using 2 databases. Auth validators, all good. The GB. So these are the same settings that we had anyway. But what we do need to do is we need to remove the media static DIRs, the media URL. We also need to remove the media root. I will at some point do a video about static and media files because you do really need to understand what that means. But just for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to fire straight through. So now you're going to urls.py. And what we need to do is we need to open up, there we go, URLs. So we need to go straight to the bottom and we need to remove this here. So the URL pattern that we added in one of the first videos when we were setting up this project, you don't need it anymore. And save the URL. Right, now what we need to do, we need to go into requirements. Remember I said that we no longer need, where is it, psychopg2. We can remove that completely. Save. Because we don't want that. We've got the binary package. We don't want psychopg2. And that is everything up to that point. Right, great. So now what we're ready to do is we're ready to pip install. Are we in that? No, I'm not in the right directory. Just make sure you're in the right directory before you start trying to fire up virtual environments and do pip commands, right? So we need a cd into did demo dir. Okay, now we want to pip install requirements.txt. So I've missed I want -r. There we go. That's just successfully installed all of the packages that we've got, or all of the libraries that we've got stored in requirements.txt file. It already had Django 3.2 and it also had psychopg binary because we installed that a little bit earlier, right? So this video is now ticking on. I apologize, it will be a long one, but I will stop at a decent stopping point, and that's not now. So soldier on. So we now need to make some migrations. So we don't need to make migrations, because if we look in the main directory here, it will already have the migrations that we made from development. You don't need to do it twice. But what we do need to do, we need to follow what we did in video 9 or 10, when we actually in 2 videos ago, when we were doing the PostgreSQL upgrade. So we upgraded from SQLite to PostgreSQL, and we had 2 databases, which means we need to make a new command to migrate. So we migrate the user database, and then we migrate the main database in that order. So Python manage.py migrate, and we now need to tell it what database. Database equals, and this was userdb. I believe I called it userdb. Let's just have a double check. Main, sorry, did demo settings, userdb. There we go. There we go. And now we want to do the same again for main db. Right, they're the 2 migrations. So I'm quite pleased that worked well. I was scared that that was all going to go belly up, but we've replicated what we did earlier in previous videos in a production server. Fantastic. So what do we now need to do? We now need to collect static. So Python manage.py collect static, and what that is going to do is going to create the static CDN static root. So in the settings file, we've got a static root, and we named it static CDN. Now, up until now, we haven't used that because we don't really need to in development. But in production, when we collect static, we want to be able to push all of our static files to a directory of our choice. And in this case, at this present moment in time, it's just on this server. But we'll change that, and we'll add it to an S3 bucket very, very soon. So if we put collect static, it's moved 137 static files, okay? And it says it's moved it to did demo directory static CDN. And if we go back, there we go, static CDN. So that's what we've just done. So now the website, when we do actually get it up on the screen, the website will be served static files from that directory, which will work, but it's not ideal. We'll upgrade and we'll get it into a DigitalOcean Spaces, which is actually an Amazon S3 bucket. So yeah, that's where we are now. Just this could be a good stopping point. So let me just double check what I'm doing. We'll do another command here, sudo ufw allow 8000, and I think that's it for now. That is it for this video, right? It's a natural stopping point, because the next video we're going to start installing GUnicorn. So we're going to configure services and available sites and a whole bunch of things that are quite complicated. But rather than doing it now in this video, let's just do it in the next video. And by the end of that video, we'll have a working website. Fantastic. So thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry it's taken a little while to get to this point. Please subscribe, please like, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.